I do think there's an odd social media momentum on things now. Stanley Cups are nothing more than thermoses with different lids. And so that you now market them. We've been drinking out of Stanley thermoses forever. So there's a weird marketing of anti-faith we've been having people who've hey, they're going through a tough time, or hey, they blew out, or hey, that family's not following the Lord. This has been happening my entire life.
Sure.
And the entire life. We just weren't all on the web and talking about it, or we didn't know of the disasters happening in this church or this movement as much. So in some ways, I don't know how much is new versus how much is being marketed as this is, everybody's leaving, at some point, everybody's leaving the Catholics for the Protestants, and now everybody's leaving the main lines. There's this mantra in the news that's, they're trying to make this normal, just like LGBTQ. There's just a purposeful, this is the normal way of humans. We all embrace this. This is so normal. And so I think we're being marketed deconstruction that's happening to everybody. I'm like, well, really, the walk of faith is difficult. It has times of doubt and confusion. And generally, we've had mentors who would walk alongside of us. We'd go, I'm struggling. Help me. How did you get through this? You'd be like, I've been reading this guy for a while, and so, but now we don't do that as much. We just kind of come out. We have almost a conversion experience of I'm not walking with Jesus anymore. I'm like, oh, well, okay, beautiful. So I do think it's the Lord, but also it's the demonic realm. And then also humans loving to just make the next Stanley Cup and the next Beanie Baby and the next, okay. So but I do think there'll be a return to hey, tell me about this God and hey, I left it 8 years ago, but I found out there's actually nothing else that describes the sort of life I want to live and the sort of what I understand the cosmos to be like. And so
I wonder if it's the combination of we haven't had a vulnerability, permission to question culture so much in the church, in many churches, I would say. Obviously, I have my experience in the Australian church, which is I would say there's not that much permission to be vulnerable. There has not been that. Perhaps more so now. I've been out almost 15 years. But it's a combination of that plus the marketing. It's giving people the permission. The marketing's you have permission to leave or to question, and it's an invitation. And rather than having the safe space of a church culture or mentors that they can actually question, where are they going? Where are they going? If they're not going to mentors and they're not going to a church that's safe to question or ask these vulnerable...
They're going to each other, partly, right? And they're going to some sort of gurus on the internet that I left the faith too. Come with me. I'm like, I don't know if that's the smartest person to go walk with.
I think of even when I was going through my deconstruction journey, those were all the guys I'm just... I couldn't get enough. I'm listening to different podcasts. I go back the other day. I was actually looking back at this podcast. I was like, oh gosh,
is another one. You used to have to pay money for that.
They are not bringing anybody back around. Is a complete bias.
Totally.
There's.
They're not trying to put. We used to had a professor who said if you take the bird of faith apart, he was quoting somebody I forget. It was in college. It was my psych of religion class. This is how normal it was. We had William James, and we were studying religious experiences in his book. Sorry to jump in on you there, but the ability to put the bird of faith back together. If you're going to actually deconstruct, the idea is actually you want something to fly again. What's going to fly in its place? And you don't hear a lot of people talking about that.
I think there's an author and psychologist. I think he's died now, but M. Scott Peck.
Read his Road Less Traveled, and
he talks about the spiritual journey following the natural one. Baby, child, adolescent, adult. Babies are obviously receiving the milk, and in a spiritual life, it's that just receive mode. A child's moving into this place of certainty. And then adolescence, you're going you start wrestling with the tensions, the rights, the wrongs, and all this. And then you move into adulthood where you're a contributor. And so much I think of even my own journey, you go baby, child, I've got certainty. Adulthood, how do I move into contribution now? And you're finding because a lot of people that are deconstructing are people college age and above. And they've skipped this portion of the wrestle, and they think that they're actually moving forward, when in reality, they just need to go back and actually fill in this developmental gap of actually wrestling with things so that they can step into being a contributor. The sad thing is that they come back and they do all this and think that that's actually beyond the adulthood portion. And so you don't see people reconstructing in a life-giving way with Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's well said.
Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah.
One of the things, that lack of answers to prayer, I think, is one of the things that does. I was just talking to the Lord, but this is where talking to the Lord about it instead of talking to the internet about it. So, and we have a cat, Luigi, wonderful cat, and he's just not been himself. Took him to the vet. I'm like, dear God, please don't let it be $1,000. Anyway, so took him. So, but I was talking to the Lord, like, Lord, why don't you just heal my cat? It just makes me sad that you haven't healed my cat. And I'm going to be bummed if you don't heal my cat. So I just talked to him like a dad, like, this is going to impact me. Like, I'm not throwing a tantrum. I'm not like, I'm leaving the faith. I'm just like, well, the cat doesn't have any sin. Can we just say a miracle? Anyway, so just inviting the Lord into all that sort of stuff and walking with him is, for me, is so refreshing and authentic. And so just talking to him like, Lord, I'm be bummed if you don't heal Luigi.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt. And I know we got bigger things. My parents lost a child. You've lost a child. That sort of deal. But that unanswered prayer sometimes.
Excellent.
In our environment, we live answered prayer builds faith, which I always kind of go with. Got to be careful, because if that's true, then unanswered prayer destroys faith.
Yeah.
And so when I'm talking to the students, I try to go, hey, these are helpful. They're wonderful. These answers of prayer. They don't always come.
Yeah.
And putting a lot of faith in answered prayer, I don't know. That's got some strengths and some weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because really it's looking for the opposite of that answered prayer, that walk of faith, going to certainty,
Yeah.
which is not, it's not where we want to be. It's that aspect of going to Jesus in the process, as opposed to
Absolutely.
that pendulum swing from faith to certainty. Certainty really kind of kills a lot of that, what you're even saying, just where you're just like, Jesus, I really want this to happen.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
But I have a book on my bookshelf, The Myth of Certainty, written in 1981. So I'm like, it's so interesting that we all think this is new. I'm like, oh no, it's been happening, my goodness. And I always have an interesting with that certainty versus faith is like, I would say at this stage, at this place in my life, I have a touch more certainty, but I know it's still faith, if that makes sense. Like I fully expect, not if I die, when I die, I will awake in the presence of the Lord. Like I have faith, but I have a chunk of certainty about that in an interesting way, like deep confidence in that. If I'm wrong, I probably won't know it. So that's fun too. But so that's even interesting. Like as I think about it, like I have a growing sense of the Scripture does have the meaning of life in it.
Yeah.
And so I hear that faith versus certainty. And I'm like, I don't know if it's versus, but there's immature certainty that can't ask questions, that can't. But I do have a sense of growing confidence. Like, the Lord's got a hold of me, much stronger than I have a hold of Him.
Yeah.
And I trust Him.
Yeah.